Thank you both so much for being with us.
Thank you.
And for your work on this film. It's, I think, the fact that so many folks have stuck around for the Q&A is a testament to just what a sort of rich work you have brought to us. So thank you for that. Diving right in, because I think we have a lot to talk about. Anamaria, I'll ask you first. If you could just speak about when you were presented with the script for this film, adapted from a memoir by Maria Schneider's cousin and co-written by the director Jessica Palud, I'm curious what your initial impressions were, what drew you to the project, whether you had seen Last Tango in Paris, were familiar with the backstory, with Maria Schneider's story before, after the film. I'd love to hear what you found compelling about her as a character, and what was your way into this project?
I've heard. I heard about the what happened on Last Tango, but I've heard a wrong version of it because still today many people think, for example, that there was a penetration, but it wasn't, and I've heard something like that, and I felt. When I read the script, I felt guilty that when I heard about what happened on the Last Tango, I didn't, go further on the internet to see what really happened and maybe find articles about Maria and her version and read what she had to say. And I really discovered her with the script. And she was a very tough and brave woman. And when she says in the movie that, the industry at that time was driven by men, and it was made for men, and your agent was a man, and journalist, press is different, but still men, and you can't, as a woman, sort of be heard in an industry where you have to shut up. So I think she was very brave to do what she did and to stick to her fight. And I felt very lucky to, go deep into this story, and very grateful to Jessica that she chose me to portray Maria.
And could you speak a bit about your process of becoming Maria, of discovering how to embody this character who is very much a real person, but also perhaps like most accessible to us through her performances? I'm curious, how did you find a way into her inner life beyond the characters she played?
In the beginning, when I auditioned, I was very caricatural, like how do you
caricature?
I was on the surface, and I think we tried with Jessica through the rehearsals to just go inside. The essence of what she was. So we tried to get rid of the superficial things and mannerisms, and I don't know if that makes sense what I'm saying. And in order to make her universal, because her story may talk to many women today, and we wanted her to be universal. So that's what we tried to do.
Matt, I have a similar question for you. I think being presented with a script in which you are called upon to imagine yourself embodying Marlon Brando, I imagine is an immense task for any actor, and perhaps even more so playing Marlon Brando in a supporting capacity as the sort of an essential part of the story, but leaving space for Maria Schneider, who's at the center of the story. What was your reaction to the script and the challenge involved?
Well, I don't think he thought he was, he didn't think he was supporting anything, right? I thought the script was really good when I read it, and and there was a lot I didn't know about Maria's experience, how she felt making that film, or and I was very familiar with the film, and I had seen it multiple times because Brando was everything to me as a young actor. He changed the game, for not just me, but actors of my generation and generations before that. So I was very familiar with the film, and I thought she was amazing in the film, but I wasn't aware of, the film is unique, and I mean, I saw it. It's like before my time, so I saw it, and I was a very young actor when I saw it. So I didn't look at Maria when I first saw the film. I didn't look at her as she really was maybe 20. How old was she?
She was 19, yeah.
19, not even 20 years old. I was younger than that, right? So and she appeared to be older, right? In the film, the ways that she was dressed, and I think that was a deliberate thing that was done. And but because I had started acting at a very young age, so I'm quite sensitive to objectification, this kind of thing, exploitation in a way, and she was taken advantage of, really. But I love that film. I love Last Tango in Paris. I think it's a powerful film, and I think Bertolucci's a brilliant filmmaker. And Marlon Brando is, to me, one of the most interesting people of the 20th century. I think he's very interesting. But they made what they did it was wrong. What they did. I mean, it really was a very. That was an incredibly difficult thing, I think, for a 19-year-old to have been put through that in her first film. And, there were times, like as an actor, when sometimes, we want that we will say, hey, don't tell me what you're going to do, just do it, right? And that is something that is acceptable among actors but you don't do it in a case like this. That was really wrong. And so it was for me to do this film. I kind of had to do it, even though there were times when I was doing it. And she's amazing in the film, and I love working with her. But there were times when we were doing that scene, and I said to myself, "You fucking idiot! What are you doing here? Why did you say yes to this?" And I know why I said yes, though, because I thought the script was good, and Brando is not a monster in this thing. He's just, he is who he is. I mean, and. And what I think you could look at what he's trying to do in the scene prior to that, where they're laying in the bed and they're talking about acting. And they're talking about it in a very real way, about finding the truth, right? And in a very misguided way. In a way, that's what they were doing in a funny way with Bertolucci, in their own way. And I don't know, I didn't know much about what had happened, after the film was released. I know the reaction was really bad in Italy. I mean, they burned all the prints and et cetera. And there was a warrant put out for her arrest. But Brando went back to Hollywood, Los Angeles, and Bertolucci went, he went back to his life. And poor Maria was a kid on her own, having to deal with that. So I'm very empathetic to what she went through, in this film. And yet I still will always love Brando and Bertolucci, and I'll always love Last Tango in Paris, but I have a lot of empathy for what Maria went through. And I commend Jessica for what she did, because she could have made it a political film. She could have just made it about, like, oh, this is a reckoning. And it wasn't. It's a sad story of a human being, And that's, and I'm proud to have been a part of that, you know?
I'm always fascinated by films about the making of films, or films that depict a film shoot. And in particular, because this is a film that's so interested in the work of actors and the difference between an actor in life as a worker and the performance that they're known for ultimately and that their reputation is built on. I'm curious, speaking to both of you as actors called upon to embody these real life actors who are in many ways larger than life. I think Brando in relation to his star persona, Maria Schneider in relation to both this story and the way in which the rest of her career seemed to follow from this film in a way. And I'm curious to hear from you both as actors how you thought about these individuals as peers, perhaps, but also as mysteries, perhaps, of that, in the sense that we as audience members know them through their characters that they play in these fictional films. We don't know Marlon Brando, the real person. We don't know Maria Schneider, the real person. And so how did you, as working actors, navigate that sort of, the responsibility of bringing these people into the real world, making Maria a real woman and Marlon a real man?
You first, my dear.
You bastard. I don't know. I feel it's true that you know, I didn't get to know much about Maria, and it's weird because I played her and I lived with her during the shooting time, and I still think of her as a mystery because I think she all her life tried to escape the looks from the other people. She was trying to sort of create a bubble, and that's why I think she started to take drugs and took heroin, because she wanted to escape the real world. And I think she never let anyone approach her, and I tried to understand her, and I think I still don't know her that much, and it's strange. It's a strange feeling, but I think I'm just very sensitive to her story, and I tried to portray her in the most fair way, and try to understand what she could have feel at that moment. But you know, I don't know. I think it's yeah.
I think we're all very, very familiar with the Marlon Brando, his physicality, his physical presence,
Yeah.
which I think you did a great job of translating to a contemporary production. And so what was your process like of becoming Brando?
Well, I had to learn a lot of French, and then they cut the scene out, and I know there was a scene, and Anamaria was terrific because I would practice my very bad French. And by the way, Brando was very good, and he spoke very good French. He really did. It was all this about him not knowing his lines and stuff, but I think the guy had a great mind, and he spoke French very well. I don't speak French really at all, and I so I had to learn these lines in French. But I was very excited to do it. I didn't know that she would want me to do most of it in French, but I keep saying that there was one scene that was cut from the film, which is where they first meet, which was fine because I think the introduction of Marlon and Maria is much better in the film the way it is now, probably. Seems good to me, but I liked it because he was very human, I think, in a way. I mean, the scenes that they had, it's sad that it ended the way it did for them. And I think Brando was just doing his thing, and he was probably, I'm going to venture to say that he was probably using cards there. and he was just grabbing things out. And if you listen to what he's saying, it's really a provocation against the church, which is, I think, what really got everybody upset in the first place, which is ironic that was the thing. But I mean, back to Brando. I mean, you have to. I mean, you have to go for it. I mean, you're playing Brando. I mean, I wanted to do it. God knows I've done enough impersonations of him over the years. And you know, at one point, you know, for example, the film was in Cannes, and I was told by Marielle, who's the producer here, hey, it's in Cannes. I said, oh, congratulations. Now how am I going to tell her that I'm not going, because there's no way I'll be able to face that to play Brando, you know? And then I saw the film, and I said, no, it's good. And I said, the hell with it, and if it's not, so what? I'm an actor, and I take risks, and that's what I do, and I can play Brando, and I feel okay with it, you know?
I'm curious to ask about what the production of Being Maria was like, in the sense that it's a film that's hyper aware of power dynamics and issues of trust and sort of interpersonal exchange on a film set. And I think it's a film that shows us what not to do on a film set, and in terms of the relation between a director and an actor and a crew member who's a bystander and observer. And I'm curious if you could just speak a bit about how you worked with Jessica to create an environment of trust and collaboration, and essentially depict a highly dysfunctional environment functionally, if that makes sense.
We rehearsed a lot, and we talked a lot with Jessica, because we wanted to make sure that we shared the same idea and image of Maria, and sort of creating it together and going in the same way. And she's very human and very sensitive, and she's honest, and she's very listening, and she wants to push you to your limits, and she wants to elevate the people she works with. And I think she's a phenomenal director because of that, and I really enjoyed working with her. And we had for example, an intimacy coordinator on set, and that's just an example of how things are evolving, because if Maria had one at that time, that would never happen. So we were very protected, and Jessica made sure to everyone to feel safe on set, and we did.
Yeah, and I think, yes, I really liked working with you on this. I really
too.
did, and every level, and it was not easy. That day and doing that scene was tough, and you were amazing. And the intimacy coordinator she was doing her job. And I remember the first day when we were there, you know, we had a meeting, you know, and I said, you know what the scene is about. I mean, probably the job of intimacy coordinator exists because of this fucking scene that we're doing, you know, and you know, she meant well, you know, and it was good. And there was at one point, because the scene is what the scene is, and she was saying, oh, Matt, could you try to be a little bit more, you know? And then and then Anamaria's like, look, he does this, just do it, you know, do it, you know, and it was like, you know, there is that. There are a lot of people that have a knee-jerk reaction to, like, the intimacy coordinator. It's against cinema, it's against creativity, or I don't think it has to be. And I think there's a place where that job could be really good, because it helps people feel safe, so then they can take risks. If it can encourage people to take risks, you know, because, you know, people, hey, listen, intimacy, there's a lot, we're talking about sex and things like this, and there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of things. But it's not about everything, right? So I think a coordinator could be additive. An intimacy coordinator could be additive. Doesn't have to be, because I've worked with a number of different types of directors in situations like that, where an intimacy coordinator could have come in handy, maybe, you know? I mean, really could have come in handy to help deal with people's insecurities, fears, or what have you. Really. I mean, it works with a stunt coordinator. I mean, it's a different thing, but it works. You know, are you afraid of heights? Okay, then we can't do that. Okay, it's a similar thing. I mean, if you get what I'm saying.
Maybe it's about facilitating communication.
Yeah, there you go. It's a communication.
I could keep picking your brains, but we have time for just one or two audience questions. I see a hand in the very back. There will be a mic that's running up to you. Yep, just keep your hand up.
So actually, this question is from Mr. Dillon. I would like to know, I don't know, is this the first female director that you worked with? And what was it like working with a female director versus some of the men that you worked with? Because the line that you actually talked about, that at this time, all movies were men, made for men, by men, that sitting here watching this movie about a woman, written by women and directed by a woman, was very powerful.
Well, no, it's not the first. I've made a number of films with female directors. I've made a lot of films with female directors, and I don't find myself thinking about it too much, but we are in a period where there is a lot of focus on identity with this kind of thing. I mean, this film is particularly about that. So I found Jessica to be great, and I think she's very truthful. You know, she's very truthful. I think the film that she made is truthful. So I'm intolerant of dishonesty in movies. That's the thing that drives me crazy more than anything. She's truthful, you know.
The way people talk about The Last Tango in Paris as one of the greatest achievements in cinema reminds me of something I read a year or two ago about the owner of one of the world's greatest restaurants deciding to shut down the restaurant because he felt there was no way to ethically and without harm maintain that level of excellence that they had established. And it was compared to standards of perfection in, say, like ballet, which can create an environment where abuse is tolerated and even encouraged. Do you think there is a level of achievement in art, like film, that is not possible to achieve without harm and abuse?
I'm French, so I didn't get everything, but I mean, it's a statement. It was sexual assault. This is what we wanted people to understand of it, and I mean, it's not just, as you said, a random event. But I don't know. Sorry, what was the question? Maybe we can.
I think it's a question about whether great art requires a degree of
Yes.
harm or suffering.
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, this is what we are trying to deconstruct with, Me Too. With in France, you have Balance ton port and all that movements that come to deconstruct the idea of abuse and power in the industry, and also, what we were trying to tell with the movies when we do this reverse. How do you say that? I'm tired. When Maria looks at the crew and the crew doesn't react, they couldn't at that time. Now I feel on set you have this idea of a crew working together, and if something goes wrong, well, somebody will raise his voice and say out loud that this is not fair. And now we're trying to just maybe, I mean, this is my opinion on it, it's less
Hierarchical?
yes, and you create together, and it's more of a collaboration between people. So this is what we pursue, and so it shouldn't. I mean, if you are a good director, that's what Jessica said once, and I felt it was very thoughtful. Is that if you are a good director, you have to be able to take your actors where you want them. I mean, what to express. So it shouldn't be with harm or abuse and stuff like that. It should be just, safe work. And I don't know if that makes sense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't think they go hand in hand, you know? I don't think it, in fact, I think it doesn't make for good art often. Just like being controlling or dogmatic also can be bad for art, you know? And I don't think that they thought that they were being abusive. Now, maybe some people would disagree with me. I don't think that that was their intention. It was a major mistake. It was, and the damage was done, you know? But I don't believe that that's what they were trying to do. I don't believe at all that that's what Bertolucci or Brando was trying to do, was to abuse this person, to traumatize this person. But the result is the result, and because of the choices that they made. And but I think it's in the script, like when we were in the scene that we did where they're lying on the bed and they're talking, and she's asking about like what you do and how you were able to cry, and it was like you were really crying, and he says because there were real tears, and he says because of that son of a bitch, and he points to the director Bertolucci, says he pulled it out of me, and he's always trying to get to the truth, and you know it's consistent with Bertolucci, right? I mean, you know, he did say he wanted to see, he said it on camera. He wanted to see her humiliated. He said that. Just as much as he said he wanted to see the real Brando. He wanted everything to be real. But that's something that was really not cool at all. I mean, I don't have to say that. It's obvious it's not. And yeah, that was, you know, but he said it. So you can't, you know, it's there, you know.
Well,
It's obvious.
I have to thank you both again for being part of a film that I think shows us a way forward from these questions. And thank you so much. Thank you all.